Happy Friday. Welcome to Seminole Sidelines. And it is a very good Friday for one Destyn Hill, who after 25 months of waiting is back in the fold for the Florida State football team. Again, the 2021 football signee took a step away from football. Again, Mike Norvell saying that summer of June or July of 2021 that there was a personal matter. Now, again, finally, Destyn Hill back in the mix at Florida State. A very, very interesting story that I think this was a question at the top of every FSU fan's list of questions. Where is Destyn Hill? What is he doing? Will he ever be a Nole? I think we now have at least one of those answers, the answer being yes, he will be a Nole. Let's start here, Kurt. What could Destyn Hill bring to Florida State?
I mean, he was, in the 2021 class, a very, very talented wide receiver. I mean, it's funny. That hurt badly, it felt like at the time, when they didn't bring him in as part of that 2021 class where, I mean, they were desperately in need of receiver production. That was the year That was the year Malik McClain came in. That was the year Josh Burrell came in. Destyn was, I mean, the highest ranked. I think he was the highest ranked offensive player in that class. I mean, rivals had him as the 167th overall player and the 25th receiver in that class out of New Orleans, which Florida State's definitely built a bit of a pipeline there. But I mean, he was well regarded as a prospect. Only 6'1", so maybe more of a slot guy, but I think really shifty. He's supposed to be very athletic, and you don't need a receiver isn't as nearly as bad as it was a few years ago. But that's not to say, I mean, if he hasn't stayed in football shape while being out of football the last few years, I mean, he can come in, and especially over time, I mean, he's coming in as a true freshman. He's been out of football. He's not coming in. It's not a JUCO situation. So he has plenty of eligibility left. And if he's anything close to the player he was in high school, I mean, they're getting a playmaker, which the Florida State coaching staff, the Florida State fan base is not going to complain about that.
Mike Norvell calls it an offense built for playmakers. He has praised Destyn Hill's abilities on the football field consistently. I went back and looked at some February 2021 quotes, and I won't read it in full, but you can check it out on theosceola.com, in part emphasizing Mike Norvell saying he is a complete receiver, showing that burst, showing the way he can run routes, very smooth, very good hands. Also mentioning his ability on special teams as a kick returner. So let me suggest this to you, Kurt. I'm not sure on a very, let's say, busy, very good depth chart now in 2023, much different, as you mentioned, than 2021. Is it possible that Destyn's biggest impact is as a returner in the fall?
It's possible, yeah. I mean, I think you wouldn't mind. You'd be interested to see who you pair back there, probably with Trey Benson, who did it for the vast majority of 2022 and had the most success doing it. But I think him and Vandrevius Jacobs, I mean, they'll have the chance to make an impact there. Well, I mean, I think both could, but it won't be easy to break onto the field at wide receiver, especially if Florida State were able to bring in a Keon Coleman. I mean, playing time would be hard to come by. It's not to say they're not capable, but yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I mean, whether you want to throw someone right into that role your two biggest games are in the first 4 weeks of the season. One of your biggest two is week 1 against LSU and Orlando. Do you want to put that on a true freshman? Is a question. I think it's a valid question, but I think it is possible, especially over the course of the year, that is something he steps into while he's maybe still getting his bearings about him as a receiver. I mean, he hasn't played since fall of 2020.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I think among our questions after those initial ones that I outlined at the top of the show, where is he academically? How much time does he need to devote there? Where is he from a strength and conditioning standpoint? I noted immediately Florida State announced him at 6'1", 200 today. They also announced him in February of 2021 at 6'1", 200. I'm not sure we're getting the most updated height and weight numbers just yet. So
he hasn't been back to campus or anything. You know, we would have known about that and reported that. He has not been back. So yeah, I wonder if that number changes when he gets added to the official roster with his headshot and all.
Right. So his first classes at Florida State will be Monday. These are steps as part of the process. Obviously, he stepped into the FSU student directory in the middle of the week. So we will next see uh, just what's next for Destyn Hill. I think eventually we'll get a chance to talk to Destyn, as we will all of these summer enrollees, guys like Blake Nicholson, Edwin Joseph, Conrad Hussey. There's a number of guys who did not enroll early. They will be part of Summer Bridge program, which is starting very, very soon. I know a lot of guys are planning to hit campus later in May. So eventually we'll get those interviews with guys,
Yep.
and Destyn Hill will be able to share a little bit of his story with everyone. I think we also want to keep you on the football end of things. This is a big recruiting weekend for Florida State. We have a lot of visitors coming in. Patrick Burnham, Kurt, obviously a lot of the guys will be out there. We'll be kind of monitoring who comes in, what their visit was like, what their impressions are. Yeah, I think also Jalen Key too. Jalen Key's got a decision that we expect to come maybe in minutes, maybe in under an hour from now. So Florida State is going to be hosting a number of visitors, including Ashwin Barker. And I hope you got to check out Wednesday's sidelines, because Pat went one-on-one with Ashwin. He's a junior college DB, but he redshirted in his season at Iowa Western Community College. And so he has a full 4 years able to come to Florida State if he so chooses, and potentially jump right in there as a versatile safety corner type who's a very good option. But also, Kurt, yes, Landon Thomas will be back, but he's also going to bring a friend, Kylan Fox, among others. This could be an interesting relationship building weekend as Mike Norvell looks to add to that 2024 class.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, obviously, Mike Norvell's offense has shown multiple tight ends can be on the field at once. It's not a position where, like, in some offenses, like, tight end might be like more competitive. That's not really the case here. I mean, you can see 2, even 3 on the field at once, but within, I mean, honestly, minutes of Landon Thomas flipping from Georgia to Florida State, he was tweeting at Kylan Thomas, who's another tight end from Georgia, a little further north, up in my neck of the woods, up in Loganville. Who's a 4-star tight end, a top 10 tight end in the 2024 class. Landon was already on him about, like, let's join up. And I mean, that's you're encouraged by the present of the future tight end room, bringing in Jaheim Bell and Kyle Morlock. But the question surrounding both of them, really, anytime you bring in a transfer, is how long are you going to get to keep them? I mean, we saw encouraging signs from both this fall. There's a world where at least one, if not both, are 1-year guys potentially. So Landon Thomas being in the fold is great, but I mean, adding Kylan Fox, I mean, talk about the future at that position. If you manage to land both those guys, I mean, it would be the come up that we've seen at receiver, that we've seen at, I mean, quite a few positions on the roster, just in terms of, I mean, it'd be 2 playmakers, 2 guys who could probably make instant impacts in 2024 if you manage to pull that off.
Right. And as you're saying, to go into Georgia to grab some guys who have, again, Landon Thomas was a Georgia commit. Fox would be a big prize for a number of programs to grab, to go into Georgia, as Mike Norvell and the staff have done with this 2024 cycle. Very, very impressive at accumulating talent on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see what happens with these visitors. Again, a number of guys arriving Friday, expecting some of these visits to be shorter than others, but we'll have updates over the weekend on the Osceola.com. Well, Florida State softball, they've been very fun to watch all year. They got out to a big lead in an early game on Friday due to weather up in South Bend. They had a first pitch of a little bit after 11 a.m. Florida State is up 6-1. So if you're at work and trying to check in on Twitter and some of the scores, we've also got a live thread on the Osceola's board. Florida State leading 6-1 going into the 6th inning with Kat Sandercock on the mound. So again, the Seminoles are in very, very good position here to advance to the ACC tournament title game, potentially to go back to back here. This has been, I think, another show of dominance, even an improved ACC, Kurt, where Florida State is using the variety of pitchers, showing Mac Leonard on Friday with her big RBI, some clutch RBI, timely hits. So Florida State, again, in very, very good position as we go through the postseason here.
Well, and Kaylee Harding, I mean, destroying. So that one homer that cleared the scoreboard out there, like, I mean, that might be like a Sandlot level, like she like unseamed the ball. Like you can see the inside of the ball. She busted it open. I mean, that ball was clobbered. And I mean, that's what this lineup does, where it just seems like it's a different person every day. It's been Janai Kerr lately, who's been on a real hot streak coming into the week. Like you said, Mac Leonard's had a big week. Michaela Edenfield's always going to be a part of that. I mean, you've got the speed they have on the bases, where you've got, I mean, all the different areas of the field and ways they can hit. I mean, they just do everything well, and it is a lot of fun to watch when they're rolling like they are today. And I mean, just have been really for the last month and a half, it feels like.
If they win today, that would be win number 15 in a row for Florida State. Just quite a way to finish the season. Again, potentially playing on Saturday in the title game if these next couple innings work out in their favor. And then the selection show will be Sunday night, 7 p.m. on ESPN2. And if they, again, let us in the selection room like they did the last couple of years, we'll be there. We'll have some photos and videos for you as Florida State has announced. Again, a slam dunk to host a regional. I think very much a slam dunk to host a super regional as one of those top 8 national seeds. Well, from one end of the spectrum to the other, Florida State baseball, right? Yes, riding a 4-game winning streak, but in what has been a really, really challenging schedule, now they face their very toughest opponent in number 1 Wake Forest. We've talked all year. Link Jarrett is incredibly candid, says what's on his mind and what he shares with the team. He knows the challenge that's in front of the Seminoles, and I think they're embracing that challenge.
Yeah, I appreciated talking to him yesterday. He talked to the media before they're hosting Wake this weekend. And I mean, I think a lot of times, like if you ask a coach, like you're playing a highly ranked team, does this one mean anything more than anything else? You'll hear coaches be like, no, we value every game the same, things like that. They'll say things that you kind of want to be like, I'm not sure I really believe that, but I understand why you have to say that or think you have to say that. And so Link came out. I mean, Link was like, yeah, I think it's extra motivation for the players. He talked about, I mean, he's been a part of number 1 teams as a player and a coach. He's been a face number 1 teams. Obviously, they took down last year Notre Dame, the number 1 overall seed, Tennessee in the NCAA tournament, a super regional in Knoxville. And I think he was like, there is some extra weight on your shoulders, an extra target on your back that comes from being the number 1 team. And obviously, this is the first time ever that Wake Forest has been the number 1 team in, I think, any of the major polls, pretty much. The coaches poll, D1 Baseball America. That's, I mean, I don't think they've ever been number 1 in any of them. And so it's a historic week for them. And I mean, they've had a ridiculous season. They haven't lost a weekend series all year. They haven't lost consecutive games all year. They have been on a roll since February. But what does, I mean, can you play the same with that 1 next to your name, or does that change things? And I mean, what can Florida State do? I mean, Florida State's on a nice little winning streak. We haven't been able to say that a ton. And yes, you can talk about the competition it was against, but what can that even just do for the mentality of a group, for the success they've had now, for as sustained of success they've had since March?
I think, for Florida State, there is confidence going into the series. I think they feel better about themselves. We joked around earlier in the week. Yes, it's just Mercer, but hey, winning makes you feel good, makes you want to go to the ballpark and work a little bit harder each day. The one thing I think it has gone against Florida State is by the time you get to Sunday, you've run out of pitchers. You need some good starts Friday, Saturday. Jackson Baumeister, Connor Whitaker. You really need to go, hey, if not 7 innings, go at least 5. Give your best 5 so that you've got a fighting chance in those games. I think your best chance to win 1 or, hey, I know it's crazy to potentially take this series are on Friday and Saturday. You've got to be good in those games.
Aria picked it on Sunday Golds. Aria said Florida State's going to win this series this week. They recorded one, I know, on their drive up to Atlanta. I listened to it yesterday, and he predicted a series win.
Wow.
I know he's on the call tonight. Yeah, I mean, we finally saw Jackson. I mean, the whole thing all year I've talked about has been like great outing, not so great outing, great outing, not so great. It's kind of almost alternated with Jackson. I think he finally, strung a few good ones together in a row now, or a few at least good enough ones where it gives it gives Florida State a chance if he goes out and does that. Are you going to hold them scoreless? Probably not. I mean, that lineup, I mean, they're in the top 5 nationally in ERA. I mean, ERA, I think they have an ERA like a half point better than anyone else in the country as a team. That's crazy. They're also in the top 5 in the country in runs per game. So they do everything. But yeah, can Jackson give you a chance? Because, I mean, the longer you can hang, if you cannot get in that early deficit, that's when it tells you, oh, we can hang with this team. We can, like the longer you hang around, the more that does for the confidence that is already, I think, feeling better going into this game. And it puts more pressure on Wake.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to watch this weekend. I know that a lot of Florida State baseball fans frustrated with how the season has played out, but you have to like that they are still battling. We are seeing some improvement, some development out of younger players. Titan Kamaka, Diamez Ross. Hey, the pitching is still there. We're seeing some good outings, like you said. Jackson has been up and down, but up of late, Connor is battling. Of note, if you want to get there Saturday early, they will honor 4 seniors, Nander DeSatis, Colton Vincent, Brandon Walker, and Brennan Oxford in a graduation ceremony on the field. Again, that'll be before Saturday's 3 p.m. first pitch. All of the games this weekend on ACC Network Extra. So, of course, check those out around your weekend plans, around likely watching the ACC Softball Championship game, too. We will have all of it covered on the Osceola.com. And, of course, come back Monday, we'll recap it on Seminole Sidelines, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. I think we can maybe tease that on Monday you'll have a special interview. Is that fair to promo now?
It's recorded. It's ready to go. Yeah, we can talk about it.
All right. Kurt, who'd you talk to? Who's our special guest on Monday?
I caught up with former Florida State fullback Freddie Stevenson. We recorded an interview earlier this week. I think we were thinking maybe could run it today, but I think the Destyn Hill news, I think, preempted that because it wasn't one that needed a certain timing. But talk to Freddie about, the documentary that I know is generating a lot of buzz that he put together, that kind of comes from his book Trials to Triumph. Talked to Freddie about, he was kind of a early Mike Norvell believer, got on that bandwagon early, and it's kind of paying dividends for him right now. Just, his thoughts on the last season, looking ahead to next season, lots of good stuff there. So, yeah, we'll have that, I think, ready to go on Monday.
Yeah, so I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys have a great Friday, too. Enjoy all these ball games that are coming up. Good weekend for FSU baseball, FSU softball. If you're at home and just watching games, set up multiple TVs. I saw ESPN showed a graphic. They will have every softball tournament championship game just in a row on their family of networks. So if you can't get out to a ballpark near you, enjoy those games on TV, on the live stream and such. Well, a short show for us, but I think we wanted to hit on some key points. If you missed anything, go back, watch, listen on your favorite podcast feed. We'll be on Apple, Spotify. We hit a little bit of Destyn Hill, what his impact could be for Florida State in 2023. Also a big recruiting weekend. Check out that story from Pat Burnham on the Osceola. Kurt's got a baseball preview. We'll have full coverage of softball for Florida State. Again, they're in the 6th inning playing Virginia Tech and leading 6-1. So we'll have full coverage after today's game. But for Kurt Weiler, I'm Bob Ferranti. Thanks for watching and listening to Seminole Sidelines. We'll talk to you later.